The galaxy had always seen Earth as nothing more than a young world, noisy and divided, a place with too many borders and too many arguments to ever stand together. To the Krill Dominion, this made it the perfect target. Their fleets entered the solar system in silence, blotting out the stars as their ships spread across the orbit. Satellites fell from the sky, communication networks were cut, and power grids flickered under alien interference. The Dominion expected fear, panic, and surrender, for this was how countless other species had bowed before them. But Earth was different. Instead of collapse, the first days brought something the invaders had not predicted: unity. Old rivals suddenly shared intelligence. Enemies became allies, and governments once locked in disputes put their differences aside. Factories worked day and night, turning civilian machines into weapons, while scientists studied every signal, every piece of wreckage, searching for weaknesses. Cities braced themselves, not to surrender, but to fight, transforming skyscrapers into watchtowers and underground tunnels into hidden arsenals. From orbit, the Krill commanders saw the movement below and believed it was desperation, yet what they were truly watching was the awakening of something ancient. Humanity was preparing not to fall, but to rise. When the Krill finally set foot on Earth, they came with confidence, their war machines towering above ruined streets, their weapons glowing with power no human army had ever seen. Yet the ground was not as welcoming as they believed. The first strikes from human resistance came not from armies lined in open fields, but from shadows. Fighters struck from abandoned buildings, from forests, from rooftops, and then vanished before the invaders could respond. Roads that seemed clear erupted with hidden mines, bridges collapsed under alien transports, and entire convoys disappeared into ambushes set by soldiers who knew every inch of the land. Civilians joined the fight in ways the aliens could not understand. Shopkeepers passed messages, farmers hid weapons beneath fields, and children became eyes and ears, reporting enemy movement with clever signals. The Krill began to notice that no matter where they went, humans were already waiting. Battles in cities turned into traps where every window was a threat, every alley a killing ground. The invaders had thought they were hunting prey, but each day proved otherwise. They were learning that humans, cornered and desperate, were never victims. They were predators who had just remembered how to hunt. Months into the invasion, the Krill still controlled the skies, but their armies on the ground were no longer marching with ease. Human fighters had captured alien weapons, studied their energy cells, and found ways to turn the enemy's own technology against them. Engineers in hidden bunkers dismantled crashed drones and rebuilt them into weapons that could pierce alien armor. What shocked the Krill most was the speed at which humans adapted tactics changed overnight. Traps evolved, and every failed attack became the seed of a smarter one. In the frozen plains of Siberia, coordinated ambushes shattered entire Krill divisions, while in the deserts of Africa, swarms of guerrilla fighters struck supply convoys and vanished into the dunes. The Dominion's commanders sent reinforcements, but each new strategy they brought was already countered by the time it reached the battlefield. Across the galaxy, rumors spread: Earth was not falling. It was fighting back with a fury unseen in modern war. For the first time in centuries, the Krill felt the edge of fear, not because they were losing battles, but because they realized humanity was learning faster than they could react. The hunters of the galaxy had stumbled upon prey that refused to die. The moment humanity chose to strike back was not marked by speeches or declarations, but by silence, the kind that comes before a storm. The Krill Dominion believed their blockade around Earth was unbreakable, yet in hidden hangars across the planet, something new was being born. Human engineers had taken captured alien ships, stripped them down, and rebuilt them with a mix of alien technology and human creativity. These vessels were crude compared to Dominion warships, but they carried something the Krill had never faced before: pilots who fought with reckless courage, turning every skirmish into chaos the enemy could not predict. When the first human fleet broke through the blockade, it moved like lightning, striking weak points in the formation and vanishing before the Krill could regroup. On the ground, resistance forces launched simultaneous attacks, driving the aliens into traps that had been prepared for months. In ruined cities, like London and Tokyo, streets once broken by bombardment lit up with human counterstrikes, turning rubble into cover and ruins into strongholds. Every battle was a message: Earth was no longer just defending itself, it was pushing forward. The Dominion, so used to enemies bending under pressure, now faced a species that grew stronger the longer it fought. Human commanders coordinated like never before, linking soldiers, hackers, and engineers into a single machine of war. Civilians supplied intelligence, smugglers carried stolen alien tech, and even small fishing boats were used to move supplies under the enemy's gaze. In orbit, human pilots flew like predators unchained, ramming ships when weapons failed, cutting engines at impossible angles, and fighting with a daring that terrified their opponents. The Krill had thought victory was certain, yet they now watched their fleets burn in the very skies they claimed to own. What was once an invasion had become a war of survival, and for the first time, the Dominion began to understand a truth they had never imagined. Humans were not just defending their world, they were rewriting the very rules of battle. And if this was only their first war in the stars, then the galaxy had far more to fear than anyone had ever believed. When the war finally reached its end, the stars above Earth no longer carried the shadow of the Krill fleet. Instead, they were filled with wreckage, broken ships drifting silently as reminders of a battle that had changed everything. The Dominion, once so confident in its power, had been forced to retreat, dragging what remained of its armies back into the dark reaches of space. Yet for humanity, the silence that followed was not relief alone, it was transformation. Earth lay scarred, cities shattered, and millions lost, but the world stood unbroken. More than that, it stood united. Nations that had spent centuries divided by politics, culture, and ambition had been reforged in the fire of invasion, and now they looked not at each other with suspicion, but toward the stars with a shared purpose. The galaxy watched closely, whispers spreading through the great councils and empires. Earth had survived the Dominion, and not by luck. They had adapted, endured, and then struck back with a ferocity no one had expected. To the outsiders, humanity was no longer a backwater species confined to its home. It was a force that had proven it could turn desperation into strength and weakness into innovation. Every empire that once considered Earth ripe for conquest now remembered the cost the Dominion had paid, and none dared follow their path. In the quiet halls of alien rulers, Earth became a warning, a story whispered to generals and leaders alike: do not test the humans. For they had shown something terrifying, that once their survival was threatened, they did not stop at defending their home. They learned, they fought, and they changed until victory was theirs. And though the war was over, the lesson remained carved into the memory of the galaxy. Humanity was no longer prey, no longer overlooked. They had stepped into the wider stage of the stars, not as victims, but as predators dressed in resolve. And every world beyond Earth now knew the truth. No alien would ever invade this planet again, for the risk was too great and the price too heavy. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never forget the war that proved it.